All right, welcome back, everybody. I'm going to go over a little bit about chords and arpeggios in LMMS, release candidate 7. All right, so here, Merriam-Webster, for all of y'all who want to question what an arpeggio is. Definition is a production of the tones of a chord in succession and not simultaneously. A chord played in an arpeggio. So we're going to learn what that's all about using LMMS. All right, so to get started, we have and this is basic. Don't get overwhelmed by this information if you're not acquainted with music theory, but you're going to have your root note, which is, for the example here, it's going to be C, and then you're going to have your third and then your fifth. And that constructs a chord, like your basic C chord. If you see somebody playing a guitar and you see their three fingers on the fretboard, they're hitting a C, an E, and a G, and that's a C chord. Or if they're going to hit a G chord, it's going to be a G, a B, and a D. That's what their fingers are hitting on that. Or if you see somebody playing a piano and they're hitting it with three fingers at one time, it's going to be, if it's an A chord, it's going to be an A, a C sharp, and an E. All right. And that's just basic. So you're constructing a chord here. You have your 1, 3, and 5. This is your basic chord. This is your rock and roll chord right here. This is mainstream music right here. All right. So to get this tutorial started, we don't need this automation track. Left click, remove this track. Beat and bass line. Left click, remove. Sample track. Remove this track. Triple oscillator. Remove this track. Triple oscillator doesn't sound too cool um, in a chord structure generally. So let's see if we can use some instruments that are in our native 2 LMMS. And I'm going to open up the piano. Before I do that, though, it's going to be loud. Let me just take my volume down here before we do anything. Let's open up the piano. Let's sample it. Let's drag it over. All right, so I'm going to hit reset. We're going to reset it here to 1%. I'm working with decibels. If you're not working with decibels, it's going to reset to 100. All right. Next thing I want to do is I want to take this down to about a -8 decibels. Sample it. That should be okay with your ears. Next thing, you hear that clicking sound. I don't want that clicking sound. I'm going to open up my envelope, LFO filter. I'm going to take my amount all the way up, and I'm going to bring my attack up slightly just to get rid of that click. All right, so the next thing that we're going to do here is assign this to a mixing channel. So you're going to come over to the gear icon, left click, come down here, assign to a new channel, and down here you have the channel assigned and you have it assigned. That's good. Now let's come over to our effects, add effect, scroll down, and if you've seen my other tutorials, then hopefully you have G-tune, because G-tune is necessary. Fresh out the box, you're not automatically going to get your A note. Let's open this up. We have G-tune. Now I'm going to sample it on my A note, and that's not an A note, that's a C note. So that's not what we want right now, because if you start off poorly, your entire song is going to sound like shit because you're not in tune. So we want to get it in tune. So I'm going to assign some quarter notes here. A, 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 and every time I hit A, if you notice over here, it's saying C. So that's not cool. That's not what we want. All right. Come over to here to my audio file processor area. I'm going to click on the top left-hand corner, stay on top. All right. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this little white knob here until we get A registering in the G-tune window. So let's hit play. So what I did there was I moved this little white knob here over to the left or to the right until we get the right note that we're looking for. So that's good. So we're in the game now. Great. Okay. Come over here. I'm going to click stay on top in the top left-hand corner here. Left click, stay on top. Very good. So we got that going for us right now. All right, so now let's get into the actual tutorial. We have our chord structure. We have 1, 3, 5. All right, let's open up this. And we're going to start here, not with A, but we're going to start with C, since C is this top row right here. C, E, G is your C chord. Now, if you come over here, below your CPU little window here, you're going to see something that says no chord. Let's open this up. And now you have a menu here of all types of chords that are available to you. And I'm just going to give you a basic example of what's going on here. Let's scroll down. We're going to do C4 is going to be the note that we're going to be working with today. So let's come here to C4. The first thing I'm going to do is choose no chord. I'm going to come down to my C4 and select that. Okay, the second thing is going to be octave. And I'm going to assign my C at the octave. And you don't really, it doesn't do anything here with the octave. But what an octave is it's the next C note in a higher pitch, or your next C note in your lower pitch. Okay, that's what an octave is. It's the note in a higher or lower pitch, but it's the same note. All right. And we don't really need that for this example. I just wanted to show you. The next is we're going to have is a major. Now we're constructing a major chord, and a major chord is going to be your root note, your third, and your fifth. All right. So let's hit it. Now, if you notice here, I'm going to come and you can follow. There's a line, the row. You can see where the notes are correlating with that row as I'm going up and down. You see that line moving? Okay. So I'm over here. That's C, and I'm coming up to E. That's E. And then I'm coming up to here, that's G. So it's automatically going to make the note for you. If you come up here and you select that chord, it's going to select the notes in that chord. So right now, this is your first, your root note, your third, and your fifth. All right. Now we're going to come over to major flatted fifth. All right, select that to C. Now what makes this a flatted fifth, if a note is flat, it's taken down one semitone. All right. Which means that you have your C, your E, and your G, but your G's flatted because up here you see it's taken down one. So your G's flatted. So it's an A sharp, essentially. All right. Next chord we're going to assign is a minor chord. Now this is a C minor chord. Now your C minor is going to be C, your flatted third, not your flatted fifth this time, your flatted third, and then your normal fifth. Okay. And then you're going to have your minor flatted fifth. And we'll sign that right now. So you have your original major here. Looks a lot different than your minor flatted fifth because both of these two notes right here are taken down 1/2 step. And so they look like this. All right. Now, when you're using these chords here, you always want to come back to no chord. Otherwise, you're going to, anytime you put something down, it's going to be in a chord form as opposed to a single note form. So let's take a listen to what our various chords sound like. We have our single note, we have our major, we have our, let's open this up. We have our major flatted fifth, then we're going to have our minor and our minor flatted fifth playing. Let's take a listen. Okay, and something interesting that I want to note is that uh, If I open up my G tune right now and I play all of these, they should say C, even though we're not only playing the C note, right? Fuck, I gotta. All right. So let's open up our effects window here, open up our controls, and we're going to open up this. That says G, that's not a good sign. But let's go ahead and come up here, check out our notes, play the notes. They should say C for the most part. Let's. Okay. Well, all right. It's going to get a little bit confused when you get into this area right here. But if you notice that when you play C, E, G, it still registers as C. Okay, so it's playing that C chord. That's the major C chord. All right, so that's cool. So far everything's going according to plan. Now let me show you how to make arpeggios. So again, the arpeggio is essentially just the chord, but it's not played all at the same time. It's played in succession. And I will show you what that means. So I'm going to choose a major chord right now. All right, and we're going to do a chord progression. We're going to do C chord here. Then I'm going to do an E chord. And then I'm going to do a G chord. And then I'm going to do another E chord here. Move this over. All right, so let's take a listen to the four chords, the chord progression that we just created. All right, so that's our first song right now. We've created our little phrasing here, and we're gonna put a beat to it. We're gonna put a rap on it. We're gonna do all that good stuff. But first, we're gonna add a little flavor to it, right? All right. So I'm gonna hit Control left click to unselect this. I'm gonna hit Control, encapsulate, select all of those, and I'm gonna stretch these notes out for another quarter measure here. I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to hit Control, encapsulate, select. I'm going to stretch these notes out. I'm going to hit Control. Whoops, I didn't hit Control. I'm going to hit Control, encapsulate, select, extend this. I'm going to hit Control, encapsulate, and extend these. Now I'm going to come over to this one. I'm going to hit Control. I'm going to encapsulate all of these, right? Now I'm going to hit Shift, left click, and drag. Okay. I'm going to hit Control, encapsulate. I'm going to hit Shift after I get it in the crosshairs here. Shift, left click, drag that out and duplicate that note. I'm going to do the same thing. Control, encapsulate, get it in the crosshairs. I'm going to hit Shift, drag it out to duplicate that nomenclature, that notation, and then I'm going to hit Control, left click, select. Then I'm going to hit Shift and left click and drag. All right, so now we've duplicated all those notes. Okay, I'm going to hit Control left click. Next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to hit Control left click, and now I'm going to shorten all these notes. Okay, Control left click, and I'm going to shorten all these notes to 1/8 notes. I didn't do that here. I have to do these separately. Control, select, shorten all those notes at the same time. I'm going to hit Control, select all these notes, and I'm going to shorten all these notes at the same time. And that's a left click and a drag with your mouse. All right, so now we're going to create arpeggios. I'm going to hit Control left click to unselect those notes. I'm going to drag this note over, and I'm going to drag this note over. And I'm going to place them in such a way that they are not playing at the same time. You have these three notes playing at the same time, these half notes, and these eighth notes are going to play differently. I'm going to hit Shift, left click and drag and do that. And I'm going to do that for all the rest of these. Okay. Shift, drag this note over. Same thing. And hit Shift, left click and drag this out to duplicate that note. Shift, left click and drag. All right, so now we're looking at chords and we're also looking at arpeggios at the same time. All right, let me do something like that. I want to come back up here to my chords and I want to choose no chord. And I just want to put a note out here so that it plays out. Now let's take a listen. First, you're going to hear your chord, and then you're going to hear that same chord played as an arpeggio. Then you're going to hear the next chord, and you're going to hear this one played out as an arpeggio. Then you're going to hear this chord, and then the same chord played out as an arpeggio. So let's take a listen. So that's how we create chords using this little feature right up here. And then you create your own arpeggios. Now there's an arpeggio feature if you select, I think it's your audio file processor, but we can talk about that on another day. Now I want to get rid of all this because I don't need this right now. So I'm going to hit Control, Select, and Delete. I don't need those notes anymore. Now I'm going to show you how to make a more complicated arpeggio. So we're going to come over here to major 11th. We're going to select that. Now I'm going to hit it at the C4. All right, so we have our major 11th note, chord here, and that's a C major 11. If you're not acquainted at all with music theory, don't be intimidated by this at all, because really it's just letting you know what notes are compatible with this particular note here, the C note, to create the C major 11th chord. Excuse me for getting all up in the camera here. All right, so we're going to come back here and we're going to play the note with our G tune. See what it sounds like. This is a C major 11. Now you have all these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 different notes here. I'm going to open up my effects, open up my G tune, and I'm going to hit, let me extend this entire note, and I'm going to hit play. So if you notice, even though I'm playing 6 like different notes, it's still registering as C because it is a C chord, but it's working with all the notes that are compatible with the C to create that C chord. Okay. And now we're going to make a nice little fancy arpeggio over here. All right. This is going to be fun. And this is, okay, say you're writing a song and you have chords in it, but you want to spice up the chord a little bit. You want to add a little bit of flavor. You want to make it sound not so boring or monotonous. And that's why you create an arpeggio. So again, this is your C major 11th chord. And we'll add one here. We'll add one here. That'll be good enough for our example. Okay, so first we're going to play the chord through, and then we're going to play an arpeggio. So I'm going to hit Control, Select. I'm going to shrink all of these down to eighth notes. I'm going to hit Control, Select. I'm going to shrink all of these down to eighth notes. And then I'm going to move them all over so that they're not playing at the same time. They're going to play in succession. All right, so now we're looking at a chord, C major 11th chord, and now we've sprinkle the notes to make an arpeggio. And we're going to do the same thing over here with this, except we're going to do it a little bit differently. I'm going to hit shift. That's not shift, that's control. I'm going to hit shift, left click and drag this out to duplicate that, create a copy and drag that out. And then I'm going to come over here, I'm going to hit shift, left click and drag this out. So if you notice, all the notes are playing separately, but it's all these notes that you're seeing here are the same notes that you're seeing here. And if you play with this a little bit, you'll understand exactly what we just did. So first we're going to listen to the chord, and then we're going to listen to the arpeggio. And the reason why we're doing this is you can spice up your song and keep it in the same key so that it's not all out of whack. But it's just adding a little more texture and a little more depth to the song that you're creating. All right, let's take a listen. Okay, and play around with the different instruments to find the ones that sound good in chords. And the ones that don't sound good in chords, it's not a lost cause, but because if you play them in succession, they will sound very pretty, very beautiful, and accent your song. All right. So this is your introduction to chords and arpeggios. I hope this makes your life a little bit easier. And thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Peace.